residents may seek to modify, that in the end they could be ignored, or that we're just not being, we should be responsible, we were elected, we're here to serve, they're taxpayers. And I think it just like opens up a door for them feeling like we're not doing our jobs. So.
Okay, if I may add, moving forward on this, if this comes to pass, I would at some point like to come to you guys and discuss the availability of funding for possibly next year's budget to get someone on staff that can work on these things. Right now, it's we have people here working. That's why we're trying to kind of fast track this a bit, just so that we can utilize the people that are here now to get some stuff done. As you all well know, the more you get done at one time, the cheaper it is ultimately in the end. Regardless whether we have somebody on staff, we would then, if not, we would have to put out the bid for a service contract. And even at that, the price of that would depend upon the frequency of them coming. My hope and goal would be to actually get somebody on staff. We have an electrician here now that is very educated, but due to the Central Hudson's restrictions on what who can be and cannot be certified and go up on the wires, regardless of his abilities, it's forbidden from them. So our hands are tied with that. I would like to send this individual to a training school, and much, Julia talked about that a little bit. It is a several month process for, it could be $30,000, $40,000 for the training. To actually hire somebody who is a lineman for the rate that the city pays for that with civil service, anyone who has that certification already would be working for Central Hudson or another power company for probably close to double what the city would pay for the same personnel. So knowing that we have somebody here now who is willing to stay, and we can work out something with them, we invest the money in them for possibly a certain time period. If they leave within a certain amount of time, like a lot of other trainings that we have here in the city with tuition payback, that individual would have to stay here for a required amount of time. Otherwise, he would have to pay back the tuition for training. So I'd like to see if we can move forward with maybe doing something in that way of thinking for possibly next year.
What are the costs in the 5 times that you've had to hire someone to come in?
It's all different costs. It depends upon the availability. If we don't give them a look forward, a warning per se of several weeks.
Right, but like you said there was 5 times you guys had to hire?
Right. It was different numbers each time, and they usually give us a
like
set rate of, let's say, I don't know, it was maybe $700 to $1,000 or $1,100 per fixture to install, and we would do 50 or 60 at a clip.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, thanks. Hey, Julie, these LED lights last 10 years, and you're replacing every single one?
Except the ones that have already been replaced.
With LED lights?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they're going to last another 8 years or something like that?
Yeah.
So we may not even have an issue. If every bulb works perfectly,
Yes.
we may not have an issue for 8 years. Is that correct?
Perfect world, Patrick.
Right, and what you're going to have is storm damage. You're going to have, a car hits a pole, something like that. It falls down, and we, if a car came and hit a pole tonight, knocked it down. We don't have anybody.
What I'm saying is it might be very, very few lights that we might be replacing in the future.
Right, correct.
But then if you just have very few, and then you're going to hire somebody for a lot of money to
Or train somebody to do it.
But I mean,
Sounds
right
like
now,
a service contract be best.
Talking about
We're looking at different, we have to weigh the options here.
Yeah.
So
But I mean,
we have to have an electrician on staff anyway.
If it works out, if the plan goes in, it should work, right, Julie? And have very few outages, correct?
that's the plan.
Right, but then do you wait until you get a certain amount before you go out and fix them?
According to the policy, after 3 months, if it's 1 or 100, we would do it after 3 months.
So as a regular scheduled thing.
Right, I mean, again, I like that you want to institute this policy and guidelines. I just think it should be left, I think the Common Council should be invited into this process to maybe look at it and say, maybe this can be added, and you know, just to, some modifications might be made to it. This makes sense.
We've delivered a number of ideas for modifying it right tonight. But so the policy is flexible in the sense that the mayor and his, whatever committee or his employees are working on it will be open to hearing what we might say in order to change it, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is as flexible as the policy that we have for when you fill out a sidewalk permit.
Mm-hmm.
It could be changed at any time. It's not an adopted policy, it's not a law, so any part of it at any time could be changed. This is literally us putting our idea for how we're going to go through the process in a form, and we put the word policy on it.
All right, and so to some degree, because there was an error of it coming in as a resolution, we were expecting to vote on it and to have direct input tonight, but because of what Corporation Counsel is saying, there is this clear distinction between the powers of the mayor, the powers of the Common Council, and so at this point, our main power would be to be directing comments and questions and possible changes to the mayor in order to think about changing this, right?
Sure.
Would it be to the mayor or would it be to Department of Public Works?
I would direct them to the mayor.
Again, I'd just like to say, I think this directly affects my constituents. They are being asked, as far as I can read in this thing, to go solicit their neighbors to remove or place a pole there. So we're going to be asking them to do a task here. That's
Well,
directly upon us.
I see it as kind of flowing from the 311, the Kingston 311 thing, because one of the things we're saying is, hey, you've now got the power. You don't have to call your alderperson to report that pothole that's in front of your house. You can take a picture of it and report it right now, and because that system tells the alderperson hears about it just about as soon as anybody else does. And so to some degree, this is a way of empowering neighbors and saying, you can actually go out and affect change yourselves.
I see that they can affect change themselves, but we're also forcing them to do it.
Well, no, they can still call the alderperson and ask the alderperson to do it.
The other thing with the council deliberating this is
So now you're putting it onto us, so it definitely affects us.
Right,
That's true.
But that's what we're supposed to do anyway, isn't it?
What's that? I know, this is a whole new, this is a new task that's being given to us.
Well, no, because I think it's actually, there's some benefit to it. One of the
I didn't have
first
to go
things.
petition people 550 feet from the house before.
Well, there's not 550 people you can have.
No, I mean
petition.
150 feet from that.
Oh, 100, okay.
From the space.
One of the first things that happened when I became an alderperson was the traffic light at Washington Avenue and Linderman, which had been blinking for years. It had been blinking because of the all the work done there because of the sinkhole. The city, it had been broken, and actually it had not been consciously changed to a blinking light. It was actually broken. So the city came in and repaired it when Washington opened again. And somebody called me and said, hey, I liked it blinking better. So I approached the city about the possibility of making it blinking, but I hadn't spoken, I hadn't done my due diligence and talked to the neighbors around. There was somebody else who wanted completely the opposite, right? So I made a mistake in that case because I didn't do my due diligence and walk around and say, oh, this traffic light affects people within 150 feet, 300 feet, right? So I think to some degree that this policy, and we can change it too, but the policy in a sense is asking us, just clarifying that that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to talk to the various people who might be affected rather than just hearing one person and doing their bidding.
Well, as Andrea said, That's very nice. That's very nice. But the fact of the matter is that this has to be done, right? This task has to be done, and it's at the and in this policy, as far as I read it, it's at the burden of the of the person requesting this, the resident requesting the light out. It's on them to do this.
I believe Julie said that that individual could ask the alderperson to do it.
No,
No, it's not in
Well,
there.
these
In there, but
people
you
shall
suggested it
ask.
could be done.
But
Is that-
people might not know that. And the other question that I had while Patrick is looking at that is, I mean, what if this is an apartment building? Do you go for the landlord? Do you go for every, tenant in there? And how about if it's an absentee landlord and a person can't then get a signature on the petition, but everybody else on the street wants it? I mean, there's so much wiggle room, and that's where council members should come into
they're
play
arguing with their neighbor.
to help out their constituents.
So one thing would just be to take that part out and say that any individual that wants to change a light should call their alderperson, and the alderperson is responsible for it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think it necessarily, I mean, if people want to fill out a form, I'm just saying that they may not necessarily know, and this is just very cut and dry, and then the whole policy is a little generalized, so it doesn't give, specific guidelines if there is something that is slightly different in terms of like an absentee landlord, or, it doesn't, and they're only going to be looking at it every 3 months, and they may not know to call their alderman.
And I think it should be a distinction between whether, the lights are all going to be changed anyway. We're getting the LED lighting citywide. So I think there should be a distinction between whether a resident wants that light changed because of wattage or because they just don't like it bright in front of their house versus a light that may burn out and then it's just darkness. So I think, I don't think, I think there should be maybe separate policies or separate, that should be different from someone wanting a light because they don't have a light or because it has gone out.
And Rennie, I'd just like to say, this is laws and rules, and the alderman's duty is clearly defined in the city charter. That's it. She cannot put into a policy that I or any other alderman should be performing any task. It's clearly defined in the city charter.
I didn't say that.
It should not be.
It opens
should
it
not
up.
be- What?
It opens it up to citizen participation.
Yeah, sure, that if they want to go petition, then they can go petition. I'm not telling anybody they can't do that. But what I'm saying is we shouldn't be telling them that they have to do it, or anyone else.
How do they get that information to the city?
The city would, obviously, our city is very capable of finding 150 feet from a spot that a person picks for their light and send out a request to those people, whether it be through the U.S. mail. The
saying
city
that
should
should
do
be
it.
the
The city
alderperson's
should do
duty.
that job. When they get a request, if it's a valid request, then the people notified around that area should not be done by the resident, because we're putting them in a perilous position maybe. It should be done by the city. And we should do that through a mailer or some other way.
Who do we pay to do that work? That's a lot of administrative work to have done. Is it going to come out of DPW's budget?
Well, we can, a street light removal, there's a lot of things that cost a lot of money around here, believe me, I've been signing the checks. But, it's about our constituents and what we're asking them to do. And I don't know if I'm comfortable asking them to go door to door. And I don't know if I'm comfortable with the mayor telling the mayor or the executive branch, as our lawyer told us, the executive branch has the right. I don't think the executive branch should be telling us what to do. And at any level, I think that's wrong.
It doesn't say that we have to do it.
I'm not saying this, right. I'm not just saying, you did suggest that go in. They let the aldermen do it. I'm just saying, you gotta be careful.
Do you get a lot of requests for new streetlights?
We get a lot of requests for removals.
Uh-huh.
Actually, we get a lot of requests for modifications of what we have, and I think that will drastically drop once everything is uniform.
And then does somebody go out now at this point and check with the neighbors or, people within the 150 feet?
No.
Hey, Ed, do we have any, like, portable streetlights? Car hits a streetlight, won't be up for 3 months, we can put a portable light up there for a while?
We do have portable lighting, yes. It's diesel operated, but there is an expense to that, and it's really not meant to stay out there for,
I was thinking
A long
something more, I
duration.
was thinking of something more you could just hook up quickly to the electric power there at the site, but then you need a...
but I need a lineman to be able to hook it up, correct?
I was just thinking, a portable light for a little while until that emergency situation or that neighborhood really that needs some light, might get some light. Or that corner, that dark corner, or that driveway that needs to be lit, I was just trying to think.
So I appreciate you guys bringing this to us, but and it's very clear that there's a lot of opinions around the table and also from the public comment, and I know I got phone calls from constituents today expressing their concern on this, that they want some, they have questions that they want answered and input, and which is where, again, the council members come into play, because we're going to be the ones that answer to this policy. This was sent in as a communication, is now public knowledge. I have somebody behind me who's probably writing up about it. So we're going to be fielding these questions. I would hope that this is not going to be just implemented tomorrow. I would like to know what this process now moving forward is that will include our feedback and our conversation.
If you would like to submit comments on it to the mayor, I suggest that that's the next action.
Reaching out to the mayor.
And maybe Ed has a different idea. That's my opinion.
Isn't this a resolution?
Yeah, apparently that was an error.
Error?
That's what I was told. It was sent in as a communication to me.
There's been a request to remove it from there?
There has not been a request to remove it.
There hasn't been a motion to act on it.
It's not a resolution until you move on it.
Yeah. So there's no resolution in essence.
In essence.
Unless there's a motion that it doesn't exist.
What would the motion be? Technically, it really doesn't exist.
There can't be a motion because it's about separation of powers.
So we will submit comments to the mayor.
Thank you for your time.
He would take him under advisement.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Next item on the agenda is Planning Board